Hi, this is Gurkthok from Elitist Jerks. This is a narrated video of a Zul'Aman speedrun that'll show you how my group has successfully approached the zone. Some of the speedrun is just a matter of, having good gear and high DPS, and there's only so much you can do about that, and there's only so much video can show you about that. But hopefully what the video will show you is some idea of the overall pacing for the run, and maybe some time-saving tricks and shortcuts to shave a few minutes off your time. Okay, so here we are at the start of the run. I assume everyone has done the zone, and so none of this is going to be new to you, and there's nothing too interesting to see here. So let's just talk a little bit about what we've got before we get into any of the technical parts of the speedrun. You'll see the group composition. We do not have a mage. We have 2 warriors. We have 2 shamans. In Group 1, Tahax is a protection warrior, and Chocula is a DPS warrior. Shabadu in Group 1 is an enhancement shaman. I'm Resto, Werebeef is Resto, and Nu is Holy Prawn. The priest is a shadow priest. So we have the one heavy physical DPS group in Group 1, and Group 2 is healer heavy, and mixture between the Shadow Priest and me with Mana Spring, Mana Tide. It lets all of us keep our mana very high so we can basically chain pull. We don't have to stop to drink. Here you see we are going to start off by running to the left towards the eagle. Jump off as soon as you can so you can mount up. There is a patrol that we just passed on the right there. Sometimes that'll be in your way, and you'll have to kill it. This time it wasn't, so we just ran past it. We'll get it as we go back for the bear later. You'll notice that we immediately just charge the gauntlet, rush up, grab the first 2 pairs at the same time. Start to clump them up. I try to interrupt casts when possible. You'll see the Wind Waker there is trying to cast heals, bolts. I just shock those when I can to keep the damage down and stop them from healing. First wave of adds from the front is a pack of eagles. Second wave is a pair of warriors from behind. The way the whole gauntlet works is it alternates eagles from the front, 2 warriors from behind, eagles from the front, etc. We're just basically zerging through here. You'll see that we use our paladin, who's a holy paladin, mind you, but he does a lot of AoE tanking on these pulls, so that we don't have to worry about loose things killing our casters, so that we can AoE more aggressively. As soon as the 3rd wave has passed, we move up and immediately try to pull the Tempest and hold the Tempest up on the steps. As soon as you've engaged the Tempest, it stops the waves coming from the front and the back. It's like pulling the boss at the end of the gauntlet in Shattered Halls. The second he's pulled, no more adds will come. So try to do that as soon as possible, because it's just fewer things to kill, less damage to do, and less overall time required. Here you see us just mopping that up, and we rush up the steps to begin to engage the boss. Okay, we pause for a moment to drink. We usually don't wait too long before we engage, but we want to make sure that no one's too desperately low. People can continue to drink after we pull, as long as they're up on top so they don't get locked out. Our range group spreads out in a semicircle around the boss, and the melee obviously are directly on him. You'll see that so far it took us 3 to 4 minutes to get here. The timer just ticked down to 16 minutes remaining. That's about what our pace usually is, and that's a good place to be here. You'll see the storm is coming up, and we clump up. We usually try to clump. Here's actually something that went wrong. We usually try to clump up right next to the boss so that we can continue to melee him while he is storming. However, if you look at the chat log in the lower right, you'll see that that time actually he started to storm a second before the storm soon warning went off in Bigwigs. That's bad. I've never seen that happen before. We kind of got away with one there. Here you'll see we clump up before the storm is due to happen. Take a little bit of extra damage there from the AoE, but it's no problem. Just heal through it. We can keep DPSing him while the storm goes on. Second Bloodlust goes off. One of the advantages of 2 shamans is that usually at around 60% on every boss, the enhancement shaman will lust. Then, after that wears off, I'll swap myself into Group 1 in the main tank's place, lust for them. Just finish burning him down. Pretty standard. Nothing special to see here really from the Eagle boss. Just a matter of doing it quickly, making sure you don't make any sloppy mistakes. Okay, so as soon as the Eagle boss is dead, we grab our Badges of Justice. We have one person, usually a Shadow Priest, stay behind to talk to the prisoner while he drinks, but the rest of us mount up and head towards the next boss. We do all this mounted because it's just plain faster. You can mount basically everywhere in the zone once you're past the starting steps at the beginning, and so there's no reason not to. It adds up a lot over time. Here we run into that patrol that we'd missed on the way to Eagle at the start. We have to kill it now before we can get to the bear area. No big deal. And now the first pack of mobs comes down from the bear boss. and something bad happens. I think our druid there likely had some hot sticking on someone who was injured from the previous pull, or maybe was rebuffing someone. Either way, he was standing near the front. He did whatever to get aggro as those mobs were running down, and they splattered him before the tanks could peel them off. That's something to always watch out for on basically all the pulls in the zone. Normally, you're not doing what you might while clearing an instance when you're doing one of these speedruns. You're not stopping after every pull to drink, eat, top off anyone who was injured, rebuff anyone who's missing buffs. You're just doing it on the fly. You do it all on the run. You don't stop. As soon as a pull dies, you move on to the next one. So sometimes that means that you are healing, you are buffing, you're doing things that generate aggro as a new pull is coming in. Be very careful about that, not to do that as a healer or a buffer when there are mobs coming in that aren't yet tanked, because you can easily pull aggro and die before anyone can react, and even if you're overgeared for the zone, losing a couple healers at the start of a pull is possible to wipe to trash. At best, you're still going to have to stop and res those people after the pull, and that slows you down. There's a lot of focus on the bosses in the zone and how to refine your strats to each of the bosses, but if you're losing people on trash, you're going to have a really hard time meeting the deadline for the speedrun. One of the big things that made the difference for us as we perfected our approach to the zone over the first couple of runs was really just cleaning up the trash. And at this point, going through the zone, we have hardly any deaths on the trash as a whole, usually 2 or 3 for the whole clear. And in general, speaking of dangerous trash pulls, in my opinion, actually, these bear riders are among the most dangerous trash in the zone, along with the scouts that patrol the Dragonhawk Gauntlet. Mainly just because they have this AoE stacking debuff that increases all damage taken, and if the two bears get close to each other, and they stack the buff twice on the same tank, even a tier 6 geared, overgeared tank for the zone can easily get two-shotted by a couple of the mobs. And if you lose one of your tanks on these pulls, things are not going to go well. So always make sure that you immediately separate things out. Also, I'll take this moment just to mention what we do in terms of marking. Our main tank marks the pulls on the fly. He just quickly marks 1 or 2 mobs, and it's understood that he's going to get the marked ones. Anything that's unmarked, our off tank will pick up. For AoE packs, that will be Nu, our paladin, and Chocula, the warrior, will grab single big mobs like these. So we just clean this up. You'll notice here that our paladin disconnected as we're finishing the last pull. He's offline. We wait a second for him. We could have just charged in and 9-man the bear boss. We don't really need all 3 healers for him, but he was logging back in and we had a bit of time to spare. Okay, bear boss. If you are seriously approaching doing a ZA speedrun, the bear boss probably doesn't hold any great mystery or challenge for you. Very simple tank and spank. He's a gear check, and if you are overgeared for the zone such that you are thinking about doing the speedrun, then the gear check is just going to be trivial. Really nothing too much to say here. You'll notice that I actually probably spend as much time, if not more time, casting lightning bolts and chain lightning as I do healing. I do heal somewhat during the bear phase, just because of the silence, and there's a bit more damage going around. During the humanoid phase, our tier 6 geared tank basically takes no damage from the boss, and so we have a druid and a paladin who can trivially keep him up, and so I pretty much spend the whole time nuking. Same deal, our shaman has used his first bloodlust. My bloodlust from the eagle boss just came up, so I use it as the boss is at 30%, and it should last until the end of the fight. Just a matter of burning him down quickly. Okay, as with the eagle boss, as soon as the bear boss is dead, people grab their badges of justice and need or greed any loot for disenchant or whatever, depending on if anyone needs it. And we rush ahead to the Dragonhawk Gauntlet. I should have mounted up here. I forgot to until now, but not the end of the world. As soon as we're all here, we start by rooting the scout. Our druid casts roots, then we charge in, stun it, and burn it down. Make sure it doesn't get anywhere near the drums. Go ahead, mark the next pack. Watch out for the flame casters. The Flamecasters need interruption, and they need to have their haste purged or spell stolen. Now, what happened there with the scout? We rooted the scout, but the root broke almost instantly, and the scout got away and got to the drums. That is something that is dangerous, and the reinforcements that appear have like 100,000 health each, and they're not that dangerous on their own, but they will delay you a lot just by having to grind through them. So be extremely careful of the scouts. Always keep your eyes open for scouts. Kill them before they get to the raid. Don't let them wander into you, and don't root them or CC them when they're near drums. That said, if you do root it and the root breaks after a second and it runs away, sometimes that just happens. Ideally, we should have stunned or snared it, but we didn't. It's not the end of the world. Again, we mark scouts as they come up, and a scout spawns and patrols right into the raid by surprise. We kill it. A new scout spawns and patrols right into the raid. We kill that too. The original marked one is still there. We open with roots on it, snare it, charge it, kill it. And then do this Tamer and Dragonhawk patrol that has been there the whole time. Okay, as we finish off that pull, we take a sharp left and hug the left wall. Keep an eye out for the hut to your right, and hey, a scout just spawned right there, and we root it and burn it down. This next pull is tricky. You see a scout on a hill. You can't charge in and engage that, or you'll likely aggro the next pack, so we synchronize our ranged attacks to burst it down like we just did there. Here's just another standard pack. Burn the scout down first. Make sure you have interruption assigned for the Flamecasters, because their AoE damage can add up if you have two of them doing it at the same time. Okay, as that pack dies, we can continue to hug left. Keep an eye out for a patrol that comes right through this area and up the steps. We'll see it in a bit. If it's here, you can either engage it, or you can wait a few seconds for it to pass by. We are past the scout gauntlet now, so just a matter of charging in, being careful with the Flamecasters as always, interrupt them, purge their haste, and move in so that if the patrol comes, you do not aggro them. Now you see in the back the patrol's coming there. I tell the group to move away, move closer to the base of the steps, pick up their totems. We do. And here we are at the Dragonhawk boss with 22 minutes remaining on the timer. That is, again, a pretty good pace. New, our Paladin is particularly important on this fight. We have him wear a hybrid set of tank gear and fire resist epics for tanking the Dragonhawks. He's not a prop Paladin, he's holy, but you can do the job just fine for tanking a bunch of weak-hitting adds. We move him into group 1 so that I can give Tranquil Air to my group without interfering with his ability to hold aggro. Mark one of the hatchers as they both come up, and burn down the unmarked one, leaving one marked hatcher up whose progress we can keep track of because he's marked. The Paladin goes to that side and starts to get AoE aggro on the hatchlings that spawn. Most of the rest of the raid tries to single target them down to thin the pack out before too many come out. It makes it easier to keep track of them and hold aggro on them later on. Firebombs happen, we spread out, top-down camera views so you don't stand in a bomb. As soon as the one hatcher has finished hatching one side, the same hatcher from the start will walk over to the other platform and hatch the entirety of that platform. Paladin is ready, picks them all up, we AoE them down aggressively, fire elementals. And it turns out that our Paladin, despite being an excellent healer who's been with us from Serpent Shrine through Illidan, is actually a noob. And he stands in 3 firebombs and dies instantly. Fortunately, we have killed enough of the Dragonhawks that we can just mop them up. If that had happened on the prior firebomb wave, that actually might have gone pretty badly. Fortunately, it didn't, and so we just kind of laugh at him. We don't really need his healing to finish the boss, so we save the battle res that we do have in case it's needed later on in the zone as we proceed to mop up the boss. Nothing really fancy here, just a matter of dodging the firebombs, staying spread out so the breath doesn't do too much damage, and if you've made it this far, the fight's pretty much over. Just a matter of cleanup. Okay, like with the other bosses, as soon as the Dragonhawk goes down, we grab our badges, mount up, and move towards the last part of the speedrun. On the way, we'll run into a 2-mob patrol, moves between Dragonhawk and Lynx. It's like the one we saw between Bear and Eagle at the start. This gives us our first look at a Beast Tamer, which has a random mind control called Domesticate. It just got used on our hunter there, who pauses to admire his sweet volley, and it increases the damage done by whoever's mind controlled. And it can be removed by a shaman or priest just via offensive dispel, and it's important to do so. You really don't want a Sweeping Strikes Deathwish warrior mind controlled in the middle of your raid. Similarly, you also don't want a warrior using Intimidating Shout in the middle of your raid, so warriors should try to use that ability when it's safe to do so, so that it's still on cooldown in case they get mind controlled. Here we move up, we see a patrol on the left. We just kind of wait in this corner for the patrol to pass. Takes a few seconds, but it's worth skipping it. Hug right, move up, go around this tree here, and engage an AoE pack here. This gives us a good look at the role that our paladin plays in this clear. He's basically in full tank gear. Again, he's a holy paladin, not protection, but all it really takes is some consecrate with pretty high spell damage and such to make AoEing much easier and faster. And there are a lot of non-elites in large packs in this quadrant. That also lets our DPS warrior DPS full time, and it speeds things up a lot in general. Here we thread the needle between those mobs on the left and right and rush ahead until we hit this next patrol. It's a pretty harmless patrol, just one Beast Tamer and some weak Crocolisks, though you do want to try not to accidentally aggro the Crocolisks that are neutral and passive in the lake on the right through Seed of Corruption or whatever, just because the last thing you need in a speedrun is more mobs to kill, even if they're not individually strong. Here we see the first of 5 pulls of elite lynxes that spawn in as you run ahead. You want to have your tanks up front, and you want to make sure that as you're running through this area, people are not healing or buffing or doing anything that's going to generate aggro on the newly spawned mobs. The last thing you want is 5 lynxes rushing past your tanks and blowing up a healer. Again, using a paladin here is very helpful. We have our single target DPS assisting our protection warrior, while the rest of the raid lets the paladin get good AoE aggro, and then seed spam and such begins. It makes these pulls overall much faster. A 2 Beast Tamer patrol comes in, we pick him up, and again, make sure to always purge. There, I get mind controlled and I get purged, and just make sure that that doesn't disrupt our raid too much as we finish them off. Alright, and here we arrive at the entrance to the Lynx's Temple. We only have a few pulls left between us and the last boss. Pull that first pack down to the bottom of the steps and engage it here. And again, you'll note that we have 11 minutes left right now, which is just plenty of time. So we don't necessarily have to be too reckless, but this is a good time to stop and sort of gauge where you stand. If you've got 5 or 6 minutes left here, you're going to cut it very close, but it's possible. If you have less than that, you're probably not going to finish in time. But if you're right on that bubble, then you want to be really, really aggressive. You don't really have much to lose. You know, just pull as quickly as you can, as recklessly as you can. Every second counts. If you screw up, well, you had to do it anyway, but at least you came close and probably learned something that'll let you do it the next time. Here we rush ahead and duck into this left alcove. There are 2 static 3 pulls in the Lynx's room and 1 2 Guardian patrol. Here we get the first 3 pull and wait for our tank to grab the next. We do that. Alright, and as we finish that second 3 pull, we get the Guardian 2 pull patrol that was passing by. Basically, you want to see where that pull is as you enter the room, and whenever it comes past, get it, even if you're fighting other mobs at the same time. You don't want to find yourself having to wait a minute for it to come back around. So it will come by, it'll either be there at the start, or it'll come by while you're clearing the first pack of 3 or the second pack of 3. Whenever it does, be ready to grab it. It's just 2 Guardians, it's a very simple pull, but you don't want to let it delay you. Alright, and here we are at the Lynx boss. If you have a gear level sufficient to be attempting the speedrun, you probably will need about 3 minutes, maybe a bit less, to finish this. If you have 3 minutes remaining on your timer, it'll be close. If you have 2 minutes, probably not going to happen. If you have less than that, then sorry. I believe there's nothing special to our strategy here. The one thing that we didn't always do at the start is just to keep all DPS on the humanoid Halazi at all times. Just off-tank the Spirit of the Lynx, don't try to kill it, or to DPS it down. Every time he splits, you can choose between either hitting the humanoid or the Lynx, and whenever one of them gets low, they'll merge back in and the next 25% phase will begin. The big difference is just that the human is fully raid debuffed. He's going to stay sundered, he's going to stay cursed, fairy fired, all that. And that drastically increases your raid DPS. He has full dots on him, etc. Don't switch targets, just keep burning him down. Use the Bloodlusts as usual. Make sure you kill totems as soon as they pop up. But again, if you've made it this far, you really probably don't have much to worry about here. Okay, just finishing up now. You see we have 5 minutes left. It's certainly possible to get closer to 10 minutes remaining if you do it perfectly and you only bring 2 healers, but at this point we're just trying to get bears for everybody, and so we play it safe by always bringing 3. And that is Zul'Aman Speedrun. I would just like to thank the group that I've done the zone with for the last couple of months for making it really a pleasure to do every week. And thank you for watching. And good luck.